You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive video coverage of the SDN and OpenFlow World Congress event from Dusseldorf. And I'm joined now by Sunil who is founder and CEO of Nuage Networks. Sunil, thanks for talking with TelecomTV.
Thank you, glad to be here.
There's a lot of focus here at the show on SDN with service providers.
Yes.
What about the enterprise? What role does SDN have within the enterprise?
Yeah, in fact, SDN, quite interestingly, has been something that has been adopted and really seriously looked at by enterprises. And the reason is because they've had to live through the pain of lack of automation at the network level and having had virtualized workloads for a very long time. And ultimately, they're looking for SDN to drive operational simplification, get that automation and get that business agility so that they can ultimately align IT to the business needs. And that's exactly what enterprises are using. Nuage has been deployed now by some of the largest enterprise companies, financials, retail industry, healthcare, in order to drive that business agility.
Is it SDN as we know it in the service provider world, or are enterprises looking at different variants of SDN?
No, it's at the end of the day, it's about SDN viewed in the context of abstraction of network capability, automation of network provisioning, but without sacrificing control. In fact, they want more control through their entire network and also want visibility. So that's what they're viewing and looking at SDN to help them automate all their virtualized workloads. And what I mean by all, as in whether it's virtualized workloads, whether it's container workloads, whether it's bare metal workloads, they need to get that completely automated in order to really drive that operational simplification, in order to really get that agility. And that's exactly the case whether you're talking about enterprise or you're talking about network function virtualization and the virtualized workloads that result as in service provider environment.
Do a sufficient number of enterprises and their IT departments have the budgets to make this change, or are we talking about just a small percentage of the major top-level enterprises?
We haven't seen any. In fact, the requirement is so pronounced right now in terms of driving this operational simplification. It's very clear it yields operational savings. In fact, in some cases, we have demonstrated over 50% operational savings from their present mode of operation. But that's great. That's good news for the CFOs. But what really makes and excites the CIOs, if you will, is the ability to have now a very agile operation, really adopt DevOps, because SDN really drives the marriage of IT and IP so that you can realize DevOps.
We've heard a lot in the past about the issues for service providers, about vendor lock-in and looking to break that. Is there a similar situation going on with enterprises?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. There is a specific trend that has emerged because of the SDN phenomenon. And what is that? It is about enterprises looking for best-of-breed solution, whether it is the network fabric, as in the IP fabric, whether it's the hypervisor technology, and they're making the SDN decision independent of these two. They do not anymore want totally vertically integrated solutions because that means vendor lock-in. And that means them being constrained in what they need to do. SDN drives that flexibility and choice.
And are enterprises concerned or want to go the open route, or do they not care yet about that?
Enterprises, what they care about is having a solution that is open, that's standards-based, that has open interfaces so that they can be integrated and customized. That's what they care about, and most importantly, what they care about is no vendor lock-in. That's what is important. Open source is often confused and talked about in the context of no vendor lock-in, but I think as long as the solution is open, has open interfaces, incorporates open source technologies that are truly open source projects rather than a mono vendor driven open source project, and has the ability to really allow for customers to customize it through open interfaces. That's what is really important to the enterprises.
What about the role of the service provider in furnishing their customers, the enterprises, with services?
Service providers are looking at SDN in the context of three clouds, if you will. One is their own private cloud for their internal IT needs. That itself is going through a modernization, and that's where you need SDN for automating those workloads. Then there is the public cloud, as in service providers who are looking to leverage their footprint, their structural advantage, to offer services like AWS, for example. And they're looking to SDN and solutions like Nuage to help them create a public cloud service that's better than AWS, if you will. And finally, they're looking at NFV cloud. And as network functions get virtualized, the ability to really have the scale-out capability, the ability to have network functions be instantiated when the demand is in a highly elastic manner is only possible through SDN. And so these are the three areas where service providers are looking at deploying and have deployed. For example, Nuage solution, we have a very large deployment in a private cloud as a service provider. We have one of the largest service providers in the world that's deploying Nuage for public cloud services. And we have a few right now undergoing in terms of how they're going to deploy for their NFV applications.
Great. And a final question for you. You're a leader in this field. Are you happy with the development and the adoption and take-up of SDN? What are we going to be seeing next?
Yes, it's interesting. SDN is now being viewed and has transitioned from what SDN is, what benefits it's going to offer, to here's our use case, here's our test plan, let's get you in the lab, let's look at how, not what, how this can really deliver on those use cases. And that's what is very interesting, and that's a very encouraging trend we are seeing in the market, as in, how can SDN help me with automation? How can SDN help me with microsegmentation? How can SDN help me with compliance? How can SDN help me to ultimately drive that simplification and get me the business agility?
Great. Sunil, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.